Separate Telangana demand. In the entire course of history, we had some typical timings or some junctures where whenever the Telangana demand is coming forward, you have hurdles. There are many types of hurdles. You see, when the state government or central government are together, they wanted to stop the demand for separate Telangana state at any cost. At any cost, remember. At any cost means they don't want to give or heed to the demand of separate Telangana state. So they come up with new set of things. Many a times, for example, sometimes they come up with a committee or a commission or something else or brutal repression. And in such scenarios, we have some serious hurdles when Telangana was not becoming a reality and the central government's adamant nature was very, very visible. And Indira Gandhi, whenever we want to talk about Telangana, 1969 movement, it is Indira Gandhi, who was the Prime Minister then, was adamant and never wanted to support or at least heed to the demand of Telangana. She said firm no for separate state. Further, she had many other reasons. For example, the internal crisis inside her party, and some more times like if you are ready to accept the demand of Telangana, what will happen? The other demands, the other states' demands will also crop up. So, many a times we can see the central government never wanted to take the demand into what you call consideration, but they wanted to stop the demand at any cost. Like in this scenario, what is happening? Indira Gandhi is trying to scuttle the demand for Telangana by repression, that is number one, or by making some false promises, or trying to help the leadership, that is state chief minister, giving him more powers, taking his version as the great thing, his version as the important thing, stopped Telangana. And in such scenario, we can see the best example is Indira Gandhi is coming out with formulas. Formula is singular, formulae is plural, but many a times we call formulas we use. So for our convenience, I am using the term formulas, that is 8-point formula, 5-point formula and 6-point formula. Indira Gandhi considered this as the magic wand. She used to think that once you are ready to heed this demand, you have to give Telangana. So for that, what you have to do is give some concessions or give some what you call some institutions through some formulas, create some institutions or committees, and Telangana people will sit quiet. This is the background. Indira Gandhi is the one who has brought in 3 types of formulas in 3 different periods. The first formula is 8-point formula, second one is 5-point, then 6-point. So all these formulas are coming at a juncture when the movement is at its peak or the political situation is ripe. So first let's deal with the 8-point formula. Before going to this 8, 5 or 6, another general aspect I would like to talk is Indira Gandhi was always bringing out some formulas, as I told. Not only this, we can talk about the 20-point formula by Indira Gandhi. Whenever there was a crisis in India, politically, administratively, in his party, in her party, or inside the country, some crisis, she is bringing out some formulas. 20-point formula, this is for your general understanding I am talking about. In India, 20-point formula is the formula which was brought in by a prime minister in which she was talking about many welfare schemes. So she always felt that you can curtail the demands of the people or democracy by bringing in such things. And this is 8-point formula. In all these formulas, one general thread is there. There is nothing new. As we started our journey with the gentleman agreement. A gentleman agreement and the demands which were put forth in gentleman agreement should be implemented. It was not implemented. They were not implemented. So, Telangana demand has risen. But when you are talking about stopping the same Telangana movement, What they are doing is bringing out the aspects from gentleman agreement or the demands or the what you call grows of Telangana and producing or some institution they are creating and bringing like formulas. This is the essence of all these formulas. Now let's see the first one, that is 8-point formula. What was the background for this 8-point formula? As we all know, 1969 January is the period when the movement of Jai Telangana started very intensely. Started in January and within no time, within 1 week, it caught like a wildfire in entire Telangana. By 20th or 21st, by the month end, it was spread throughout Telangana state or Telangana region. We can't call it a state, Telangana region. In this background, the political movement was going in Telangana, and what was happening in Parliament? There were discussions, debates, especially by the people who are like Narayan Reddy, those who are raising the demand of Telangana in Parliament. At the same time, there were some situations like those who are not from Andhra Pradesh, like the socialist leader 𝗬𝗠𝗎𝗍. 𝗬𝗠𝗎𝗍 was a socialist leader. He was against all the undemocratic attitudes in the country. So 𝗬𝗠𝗎𝗍 once has introduced a privilege motion against the then CM, that is Kasu Brahmanand Reddy in Lok Sabha. He was saying that Brahmanand Reddy's statement saying that center talking about the situation in Andhra Pradesh is like intervening in the affairs of the state. So in Lok Sabha, he introduced this privilege motion against Kasu Brahmanand Reddy, and there was a debate. And this debate, definitely, this is the first time, though some attempts are there to talk about Telangana in Parliament. And this is the time when this privilege motion has come. So many things were coming out in a detailed manner. Discussion about Telangana was happening. In this background, there were parties which are participating in the election, in the debates in Lok Sabha, and some parties supported. Even Jan Sangh was critical of the Indira's attitude towards Telangana, and the parties which supported thoroughly the Telangana demand always was the Swatantra Party, led by N.G. Ranga in the center. Means N.G. Ranga was a parliamentarian. He supported Telangana demand always. And the other one is 𝗂𝗽𝗍𝗃, a state leader. Swatantra Party. Remember this party? This is the party which was the first party to support Telangana officially, Swatantra Party. Then Republican Party of India. This Republican Party of India, a Dalit orientation party. Republican Party of India, a party started by Ambedkar, B.R. Ambedkar, and Republican Party also supported the cause of Telangana always. So in this background, Telangana is in the discussions in the center at Delhi. So in this background, on one side, there is an intense movement. Violence is going on in Telangana. Brutal repression is happening. By this time, many people fell to the bullets of the state. So finally, what has happened? All-party meeting was convened by the Prime Minister, and this all-party meeting could see some of the discussions. If we see the last phase of our Telangana movement also, all-party meetings are very important. There was an all-party meeting just before 9th December declaration of Chidambaram in Hyderabad. All-party meetings, 2 rounds in Delhi, asking all the representatives of the, asking all the parties to send their representatives and express the opinion on Telangana. Because in a democracy, all parties should give their opinion either inside Parliament or in the official meetings. This will be recorded and taken into considerations when you take a decision. So all-party meeting was convened by the PM, and this all-party meeting was a crucial one before spelling out or before declaring the 8 points for Telangana. So after this all-party meeting, the Prime Minister met Home Minister Y.B. Chavan and Congress President Nijalingappa and other leaders like Kamaraj and Chief Minister Brahmanand Reddy. All these peoples, all these important leaders were consulted by Indira Gandhi. Consulting Nijalingappa or Kamaraj is to make a point that inside the party she had the support. And consulting Brahmanand Reddy is to get the opinion. And unfortunately, Brahmanand Reddy opinion was the only opinion which was spelt in all these things. Because in the declaration, when she declared in the parliament all these formulas, the expression was like that. She used to say, she said when she declared, like every point, before every point, as the chief minister advised, as the chief minister opined, and everything is attributed to chief minister, that is Brahmanand Reddy. So considering the statement of Indira Gandhi in the Lok Sabha, we can see the impact or the stamp of Brahmanand Reddy on these 8-point formulae. The same Brahmanand Reddy was there when who was issuing GO number 36. This GO number 36 is this was the first attempt to stop the demand. This came in the first month of hesitation itself, in January itself. So here also Brahmanand Reddy's opinion was carried into this 8-point formula. So who were there Indira Gandhi met apart from the leaders inside the party or Brahmanand Reddy? From Telangana, Chennareddy was consulted, 𝗵𝗵 Raju, and 𝗵𝗵 Raju, interesting point is 𝗵𝗵 Raju is from Telangana, always representing Telangana, but 𝗵𝗵 Raju was a settler. He was taking the interests of the settlers in Hyderabad state. Before this also, even in Hyderabad state, he was the minister. So he was a representative of settlers in Telangana and he was being consulted. And then Nukala Ramachandra Reddy. These three people were important leaders who were who were consulted by Indira Gandhi. Then from Andhra, it was Kakani Venkataratnam, who was the leader of Jayandhra movement in the next phase. 1973 Jayandhra, Kakani Venkataratnam, Kotta Raghuramaya and Damodaram Sanjeevayya. So these three leaders from Andhra were consulted. Then on 11th April, after deliberations, after thorough or complete deliberations with all these leaders, Indira Gandhi declared the 8-point formula in Lok Sabha. And she said the aim or the objective of this 8-point formula was to provide for the development of Telangana, efforts to provide or steps to provide employment to Telangana people. This was the main essence. Means development and employment. So let's see what were the important points under this 8-point formula. So first point, a high power committee under the chairmanship of a retired or a sitting Supreme Court judge to assess the surplus of Telangana. I'll first give the complete point, then I'll discuss. Then the committee will be comprised of an economist who is well acquainted with the state's economic resources, and a representative of Comptroller and Auditor General shall be the members of this committee, and report should come by the end of May. She is declaring the formula in April and giving the time for May. So this 1.5 month or 2 months period maximum, the report should come out. The essence of this point is to assess the surplus. Why surplus? Again, go back to your gentleman agreement. Surplus of Telangana should be spent on Telangana, and it was not being done. Whenever they are demanding, whenever people are demanding, whenever Telangana is demanding, they are hushing up the things. So now this formula is talking about the surplus. This is 1969 and Telangana was merged, or Hyderabad state was merged. Part of Telangana in Hyderabad state was merged in 1956. 13 years of history, 13 years of deviating the funds from Telangana. So they have to talk about. This is the first point. High power committee to assess the surplus. Then second one, discussions to be held between the central finance, home ministers and planning commission and the state government to decide about spending the surplus funds of Telangana. Funds should be provided to fill the loss incurred by Telangana. This point number 2 has 2 things. One is, after the assessment of funds, what the government has to do? It has to decide upon how to spend this surplus. How to spend this surplus means the first point is related to assessment of surplus, second point is related to the expenditure of surplus, how to spend the surplus. Then third point is, if surplus is there, what has happened to the surplus? So funds should be provided to fill the loss incurred by Telangana. because that surplus was used by the United Andhra Pradesh government. So you don't have surplus anywhere. So you have to fill that gap. And this committee has these discussions, the deliberation between these departments, representatives, that is Finance, Home and Planning Commission, should discuss from where the funds has to be brought in. So this is point number 2. There is a proverb in Telugu like Alu ledu, Chulu ledu, Koduku-Peru Somalingam. See, first point is talking about the surplus, assess it, then this point is talking about expenditure. But we will see after this 8-point formula what has happened with these committees. What was the assessment of surplus? What considerations was there before the committees when they were assessing the surplus? Ultimately, all these points are gone. It was not being implemented. But when you are talking about when you are declaring the point, you have an intention to assess the surplus and spend the surplus and decide how to spend the surplus. So this is point number 2. Then third point, a high-level official committee under the chairmanship of Chief Minister to advise the state government in implementing developmental activities under 5-year plans, deciding targets and implementing the activities of Telangana. This is a general orientation. A committee will be set up to decide or to advise the government. Who is the government? The government is headed by the Chief Minister, and another committee is being set up, and this committee will advise the Chief Minister. So who will be the members of the committee? That is Planning Commission member, ministers from Telangana and the chairman of TRC. If we have to comment on this point, think about the Telangana Regional Council. That was the first term we have used. Council was there to do all these things. But now what has happened? They did not do anything about the council, made it as a committee, and from the implementation body or decision making body to advisory body. And now they are talking about the same situation, talking about an institution similar to that, but again an advisory and chaired by Chief Minister. The grouse of Telangana is we don't have representation in the cabinet also. Chief Ministers are from Andhra Pradesh, no Deputy CM, no questioning of, no taking the advice of the TRC. So now again an institution is coming up with the chairman, with the Chief Minister as the chairman. Again the ministers from Telangana were the members. The same provision was there in gentleman agreement. The problem is in the entire exercise, they are repeating the same thing which was promised and again creating a new formula. This is the essence. Next, fourth point, an officials committee to implement the decided plans. Representatives of central, home, finance departments and the state government as members. Means an official committee to implement the decided plans. This is an official committee. This is an executive. So members will be representatives of central, home and finance departments, and third one is the representatives of state government as members. See, if you don't have this formula also, if the government is coming out with some plan or proposal, it is the same thing the government has to do. Now what the point is saying is, yeah, it is creating an officials committee to implement it. Actually, this is like not what you call, if there is a wound on the body, we have to what you call give medication to stop the wound or to the root cause. But instead what the thing is, all these points are like something, rubbing something on the wound so that you will not feel pain, that's it. The main reason for the pain, the disease or the wound which is deeply cut should be treated first, and instead it is like rubbing some balm on the pain. That is this committee. So this is fourth point. Then fifth point, more powers to Telangana Regional Committee and the bodies formed in due course. More powers to Telangana Regional Committee. What has happened to all these days? Telangana Regional Council was not formed and committee was formed, and whatever the powers the Telangana Regional Committee had was not being seriously taken. And now talking the same thing again, more powers to TRC. And to the bodies which are formed in due course for Telangana. This is like a promise, a poll promise, an empty promise. There is no concrete thing in this point. More powers means what? You can interpret this like anything. So this is the fifth point. Then sixth, the central government shall explore the possibilities to provide constitutional safeguards for Telangana in employment, shall consult a body of jurists. This point is coming in the wake of the court judgments. Many court judgments came by this time. This is April. Twice or thrice, that like 𝗹𝗶𝗻𝗁 judgment or 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 judgment or 𝗳𝗏𝗍 High Court's bench has come out with a judgment. High Court full bench has come out with a judgment. So there is a problem in interpreting mulki rules through the constitutional provisions. So the sixth point is to address the legal issues, to address the constitutional provisions, because in India, Hyderabad has a different history. The history is completely different because the state of Hyderabad is getting merged into Indian Union. When it was being merged, some of the provisions which were there, because these are the conditions you have to give, these are the promises you have to give, these are the concessions you have to give when the Indian government has merged Hyderabad state. Likewise Kashmir, likewise Hyderabad. Some special provisions are there for such areas. Not only here, there are some provisions from Northeast too, for Northeast too. These special provisions should be taken into consideration and the safeguard should be continued. So in this background, this 8-point formula is talking about looking into the constitutional aspect of providing employment. That is nothing but mulki rules or mulki act. Locals getting the share, lion's share in employment. Means majority of the jobs should be given to locals. This is the essence of this. So the promise or the point which is talking about consulting a committee, appointing a committee, and this body of jurists will definitely look into the constitutional safeguards, whether it has to be amended, whether it is feasible, first of all, whether it is feasible or not. So this is the sixth point. Then seventh point, Central Advisory Committee under the chairmanship of UPSC shall visit Hyderabad, meet the government employees to know their grievances and make recommendations to Home Minister. This point is talking about a committee under the leadership of the chairman of UPSC, Union Public Service Commission. What is the role of the UPSC in India? UPSC is the body which which is not only conducting examinations, it is also talking about the service conditions, improvements in the service conditions, and many things, personal grievances, everything come under the Ministry of Personnel, Union Ministry of Personnel. So this Ministry of Personnel, UPSC is coming under. So this UPSC chairman will come, chairman and a committee under his leadership, his or her leadership, should come to Hyderabad, visit Hyderabad, talk to the employees, take their opinions, talk about their grievances, collect the grievances. What are the grievances of employees? One is in employment. First is employment. Second thing is promotions. Or third one is about cadre. Cadre means fixing the cadre. What is the nature or level of the particular employee? That first cadre 1, cadre 2 post, that is fixing the cadres. Then last one is service conditions. Telangana employees were always complaining about this aspect. So this committee will look into that aspect. This is about the seventh one. Then eighth one, the Prime Minister shall hold meetings with the Chief Minister and the members of the above mentioned committees timely, that is twice in a year, to pay attention towards the issues of Telangana. Means once the formulas are coming into effect, means being implemented, so you have to check whether these things are getting implemented or not. So this last point is providing a space for regular review of the things happening. Means twice in a year. Means every 6 months, the Prime Minister will meet all the members or the chairmen of the committee and review what are the things happening under this 8-point formula. This is the 8-point formula of Indira Gandhi. But what has happened? This formula could not satisfy neither the Telangana activists nor the political parties. All the political parties rejected it, saying that it's an empty promise. And many Telangana activists said that we want separate Telangana. We have a lot of water has flown in Ganges. This could have been done in the first years of the state formation, that is United Andhra Pradesh formation. But now talking about it is nonsense. So Telangana activists rejected it, and the political parties also did not welcome the 8-point formula thoroughly. So what has happened? In the process of implementation of 8-point formula, some committees were formed. After declaring this 8-point formula, what was happening? To implement this 8-point formula, Indira Gandhi has declared in Lok Sabha. Now the ball has to roll on. The wheel has to roll on. So on 17th April, the declaration was made on 11th April in Lok Sabha. On 17th April, 2 committees were formed. One is Telangana Development Committee. As we have seen, a committee to implement the plans was there. A committee to decide upon the plans was there. So taking the cue from these points, these 2 committees were constituted. One is Telangana Development Committee. Second one is Plan Implementation Committee. This is happening on 17th April. Then on 19th April, the government, the central government has appointed a committee. Justice retired 𝗬𝗁𝗂, K.N. 𝗬𝗁𝗂 was appointed to look into the constitutional safeguards, that legal body we talked about, that is jurists, consulting the jurists to consider the constitutional safeguards for employment for Telangana. So Justice 𝗬𝗁𝗂 committee, K.N. 𝗬𝗁𝗂, 𝗬𝗁𝗧 𝗬𝗁𝗂 committee was appointed to look into the constitutional safeguards for Telangana. And this committee came out with a report as the government wanted. What the committee said was, safeguards is not possible. Providing safeguards is against the constitution, because in one case, in Golaknath case was a case which Golaknath versus state of Punjab. This case was there in the Supreme Court, and Supreme Court in that case said that the Parliament could not curtail any of the fundamental rights in the Constitution. Means curtailing the fundamental rights is the problem. So Golaknath case is the precedence the 𝗬𝗁𝗂 committee has taken, and said that as the Golaknath case says, the Parliament cannot curtail the fundamental right. What is the fundamental right here they are talking about? Fundamental right of a person of other region getting employment in Telangana. So taking this cue, the 𝗬𝗁𝗂 committee said that safeguards is not possible. Means whatever we were discussing about the mulki and safeguards for employment is completely watered down. So in the 8-point formula, one committee which has to look into the safeguards for employment is gone within 1 month or 2 months. So next, committees to implement 8-point formula, the other committees, like on 22nd April, Justice 𝗬𝗂 Bhargava committee was appointed. This 𝗬𝗂 Bhargava committee was to assess the surplus. We talked about the first point, that is a committee to assess the surplus. This assessment of surplus is very important. 𝗬𝗂 Bhargava committee has assessed the surplus and it gave the report. That report is very disappointing. 𝗬𝗂 Bhargava, who was assisted by some other people, 2 other people, and 3 people committee came out with the surplus as 28.34 crores. Means 28.34 crores was the surplus till that period. It was too little. Surplus of Telangana which was spent illegally, they are assessing it as 28.34. Before this, there was a committee known as Kumar Lalit committee. Kumar Lalit committee assessed the surplus as 34.10 crores. We were not satisfied with that amount, we were not satisfied with that number, and we said it was more surplus, but it is less expressed in Kumar Lalit committee. Again, now also you can see 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 committee has come out with the number which is much lesser than the earlier committee, that is Kumar Lalit committee. So Telangana people are rejecting it. We are not happy with this committee too. So next, what is the essence of this 8-point formula? Telangana was not happy with the 8-point formula, and 8-point formula could not achieve any spelt objectives because the committees appointed by the center were not yielding the results. This surplus committee of 𝗧𝗦𝗔𝗧 is getting less surplus. Vanshu committee said no constitutional safeguards. Then what will be the result? What are the aims? Can we think about the any betterment for Telangana through 8-point formula? No, certainly. So 8-point formula was not a solution for Telangana. This is about 8-point formula. In the next topic, we will be talking about in the next part of this lesson, not exactly topic, we will be discussing about the other formulae of Indira Gandhi. In the first part of formulas of Indira Gandhi for Telangana, we have discussed 8-point formula. And today, we will discuss about the other 2 points. Telangana had different periods. The first 8-point formula came in a crucial period where the Telangana agitation was completely into an intense mode. Setback period means once the Telangana agitation entered into the second half of 1969, gradually the movement or the agitation is entering into a phase where political leadership or political activity is becoming the major activity than the agitation. By this time, lot of things have been done like repression, severe repression, martyrs, and people are getting killed by the repressive measures of the government. Now we are talking about the 5-point formula. This 5-point formula is coming at a juncture where you can see Supreme Court's final verdict on 𝗧𝗧 issue came. Supreme Court's final verdict came in favor of 𝗧𝗧 rules. When it came in favor of 𝗧𝗧 rules, there was a serious agitation in Rayalaseema or Andhra region. So this is one background. Indira Gandhi continued the discussions with the people of different regions, and since the verdict came out and 5-point formula was coming on the date, that is 27th November 1972. Remember this date. In your examination, they might ask you the dates of these formulas. In 5-point formula, unlike the 8-point, you can see some concrete things are being talked, but not completely in favor of Telangana. First point, in Telangana, 𝗧𝗧 rules are applicable for non-gazetted posts, Tahsildar posts and civil assistant surgeons, junior engineers. These are the posts for which 𝗧𝗧 rules are applicable. It means some gazetted posts, in Telangana, it is open for all. So NGOs, that is non-gazetted posts, Tahsildar, and third one is civil assistant surgeon, fourth one is junior engineer. Rest of the group 1 posts, rest of the gazetted posts, whether it is group 1 or group 2, they are not for 𝗧𝗧s. It is for open. Open means anyone can be appointed in Telangana for the gazetted posts, excluding these things. So this is first part of the statement, first part of the point number 1 in 5-point formula. Second one is every second non-gazetted post out of 3 in the secretariat, every second non-gazetted post out of 3 in the secretariat, offices of HODs and the state government offices shall be reserved for 𝗧𝗧s. This already we have this type of formula before also, means out of 3, 1, 2, 3, this second post should be reserved for 𝗧𝗧s. Where? In the secretariat, offices of HODs and state government offices. Again, the first part of the statement is also applicable, means this is applicable for non-gazetted officer posts, Tahsildars, civil assistant surgeons and junior engineers, and not the others. So this is point number 1 in 5-point formula. Second one, these safeguards shall be implemented in Telangana till the end of December 1980, in Twin Cities till 1977. How many years? This is 5-year plus. 5-year plus I am saying because in Twin Cities this formula or this safeguard will be implemented till 1977. This formula is being declared in 1972 plus 5, 77. So, till 1977 in Twin Cities, and in districts it is till 1980. Means in the second part of the first formula we talked about the posts in secretariat, the posts in HOD offices, the posts in the offices which are state level. This second part of the point number 1, take this, apply it to this point number 2 for till 1977. Rest of the Mulki rules means non-gazetted posts will be for Mulkis, will be applicable till December 1980. Means these safeguards are being extended to a maximum period of 1980, minimum period of 1977. So, this is point number 2. To facilitate promotions in Andhra and Telangana, first and second level cadres shall be regionalized. This is not related to Telangana only, this is related to Andhra also. Means the rationalization or regionalization of cadres, the entire cadre should be divided into first level cadre and second level cadre, and this cadre fixation will give you promotions. Means regionalized promotion means that will be applicable for Telangana and Andhra too. If the cadre is fixed like first level cadre, second level cadre, the seniority list will be created, and first level cadres, again from that list the promotions will happen, or from second level cadre to first level cadre the promotions will be held. Means this is applicable for both the regions, that is Andhra and Telangana too. No harm to the interests of the Telangana students in Twin Cities. Educational facilities shall be extended, but Mulki rules will not be applicable for them. No harm to the interests of Telangana students in Twin Cities. Do you see a proper or a concrete proposal here? Nothing of that sort. But this point is trying to suppress discreetly, saying that no harm will be happening to Telangana students in Twin Cities. Means the same things which are there will continue, their rights and everything. But second point, you see, educational facilities shall be expanded, more educational facilities will be created, and in those more educational facilities, Mulki rules will not be applicable. Very interesting. Some educational facilities are there, institutions are there, and provision is there. And over on this, you are creating new facility. And this new facility is borrowed from Mulki's rights. So, what you are doing is you are creating new facility for the all. And Telangana people or students should fight for the open one. Not specifically, they can't talk about the rights in the new facilities. A joint police force shall be deployed in Hyderabad and Secunderabad. Joint police force, it means there is something like Hyderabad or Telangana is a separate territory. It's like two countries merging together, and there is some problem with the police force, and police force should be created jointly. Means the other region will also be represented, and this joint police force will guard Hyderabad and Secunderabad to show that there is a concern, there is a problem for law and order in Telangana for the non-Telanganites. If that is the case, see the same demand, history repeats, history continues, history will show its impact. In the next phase also you can see what we are talking about. In the last phase, when Hyderabad demand is there, Hyderabad should go into the the joint capital. Then there was a demand for joint police force. My force and your force, my army, your army. It's like two different countries. Always you had this problem in Telangana or United Andhra Pradesh. So understand this as a joint police force. Then details to be worked with the consultation of Telangana. This is a mere execution aspect of it. So these 5 points were expressed by this formula, and the issues in these 5 points, if we see, gazetted posts in Telangana kept outside the purview of Mulki now. Before that, Mulkis were having their share in gazetted posts also. So gazetted posts in Telangana shall be for mulkis according to the Supreme Court verdict. Supreme Court gave a verdict in favor of this. Mulki is constitutional. When they said mulki is constitutional, even gazetted posts are for Telanganites, under mulki rules. But now this formula has created such a situation that Supreme Court decision of mulki rules will be out of this one. Telangana's, see, this is a step backward for Telangana people. So this point limits, this formula limits the Supreme Court verdict. Mulki rules are constitutional, but the government is creating a formula where gazetted posts are out of the purview of mulki rules. Done. So you are stopping Telangana people to become officers. Why it is crucial to become officers? Remember, తెలుగులో ఒక సామెత ఉంది, వడ్డించేవాడు మనవాడైతే ఎక్కడ కూర్చున్నా మన విస్తట్లో వచ్చి మనకు కావాల్సింది పడుతుంది. If the group 1 posts or officer posts are in the hands of non-Telanganites, they can do many things. What we have seen till 1969 is the same thing. Officers from other areas are creating all sorts of provisions, taking the loopholes and giving employment to non-locals. So the same thing will happen if Telangana people are out of this mulki rule provision for gazetted posts. So this is a setback in terms of this 5-point formula. Second one is, this was opposed both by Telangana and Andhra. Sometimes you can satisfy one party and sometimes you can't satisfy both the parties because you are trying to balance which cannot be balanced. Telangana issue is such an issue where you cannot make some balance. This balance period was there in gentleman agreement period. Gentleman agreement period is the only period where you can balance because that was the first stage. The honesty or integrity of Andhra leadership could have been proven, but it did not. So automatically you lose that opportunity. There is no balancing act in Telangana now. You have to come out for Telangana. So you cannot satisfy Telangana people with your formulas. Andhra people also are not satisfied because still mulki rules are there. Another point is, the bill was introduced in the parliament to implement the formula, and when the parliament was trying to implement through the bill, taking the points, then Jai Andhra movement rose and Andhra MPs resigned from parliament and the formula became a non-starter. Andhra MPs have some specific quality. Telangana MPs have some specific quality. Whenever there is a crisis, whenever they felt that there is a stage where it is detriment to the progress of Andhra, all the MPs will resign even much before. And Telangana people were forcing the MPs to resign in the last phase and MPs were reluctant to resign. A few resigned, not all. So you can see Andhra MPs are resigning. They are trying to create a crisis in administration and constitutionally when the issue was coming to the fore. So when the points were trying to be raised in the form of the bill, it was being introduced into the parliament as a bill. Andhra MPs resigned. Jai Andhra movement was rising. it was on the rise. So this 5-point formula could not be implemented. It was a non-starter completely altogether. So this is about the 5-point formula. And then come to the last one, that is 6-point formula of Indira Gandhi. The background of this point is, you can see, P.V. Narasimha Rao had to resign as Chief Minister of Andhra Pradesh in 1973, 10 January, because Jai Andhra movement was on rise. When Jai Telangana movement was on rise, Brahmanand Reddy is not resigning. Brahmanand Reddy resigned because there was a pact between Telangana Praja Samiti and Indira Gandhi. It is not because of Telangana movement, replacement of the CM. But what has happened? P.V. Narasimha Rao came and within short time, the Jai Andhra movement also came. Jai Andhra movement is against Telangana. See, Andhra were not ready for division till the Supreme Court verdict came supporting the mulki rules. Once the Supreme Court verdict came, they want our own state. What happened to the greater understanding, magnanimous understanding of all Telugus together? 1912 they were talking about Telugus together, but only one aspect of mulki rules, that is one aspect of the verdict, that is for employment, and it is reserving for Telangana. And Andhra said, no, we want other state. What happened to the magnanimous demand of we Telugus are one? No, they don't have that. It is to appropriate the employment, it is to appropriate the resources these things has happened. This united Andhra Pradesh came in. And once the Mulki rules judgment is there, they want their own separate state. Jayandra movement came in 1972 or 73. There the demand is for separate Telangana, separate Andhra. The same thing was demanded by Telangana people. And you could have heeded to that request. People would have been happy in 1970 itself. Telangana and Andhra getting separated. 2 states for Telugus, which happened in 2014. This dream would have been come true much before. 2014 means 14 years here and 20 years there. Almost 35 years before itself, we would have our own states. More development. So, Jai Telangana and Jai Andhra. Jai Andhra movement is to separate. When Jai Andhra movement came, all the film stars supported it, as we have discussed in other topic. They supported Jai Andhra and said that immediately give the Jai Andhra state. No one talked about Jai Telangana. No one talked about Telangana movement when Telangana was on rise. So, in this background, P.V. Narasimha Rao resigned. Not only this, P.V. Narasimha Rao's resignation had some of the more points also. We will talk when in some context, like the aspects in the administration, like land ceiling acts and all those things were not liked by the ruling class or the landlord class, and P.V. Narasimha Rao had to step down. So, owing to Jai Andhra movement, he stepped down and president rule was imposed in Andhra Pradesh. So, after suppressing the separate statehood movement, both in Telangana, after suppressing this Andhra movement, Indira Gandhi succeeded in dividing the leadership of both sides, and she came out with a new formulation. That formulation is that 6-point formula. 6-point formula is the formula which has nothing to do with all these things, but it is completely another aspect we will see. So, before that there was a huge exercise. Indira Gandhi met the leaders of 2 sides, discussed with the Home Minister, 𝗂𝗽𝗱 Panth. 𝗂𝗽𝗱 Panth was the Home Minister then. Then, remember, we had 2 Panths Home Minister. 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗪 Panth at the time of, after the merger time, it was Patel. After that, gentleman agreement time, you have 1 Panth, that is GB Panth, 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗪 Panth. That he was the Home Minister then, central. And now it is 𝗂𝗽𝗱 Panth. 𝗂𝗽𝗱 Panth was the Home Minister, and she discussed with 𝗂𝗽𝗱 Panth, and this 6-point formula came out after deliberations. Remember, all these things are happening between 1969 and 75. This is also a testing period for Indira Gandhi, because she was consolidating her position inside the party and in the government, and she is ruling with the iron hand, iron wrist, whatever you call. So, she is coming with a different set of formulas, but not heeding to the basic demand of Telangana. So, on 21st September 1973, Indira Gandhi has declared the next set of formulas, that is 6-point formula. And 6-point formula is one such worst formula for Telangana, because Telangana lost all the victories, all the gains which it won in the entire period. For example, you talk about the safeguards, though they were violated, at least for namesake, on the paper you had safeguards. If you see Indira Gandhi's 6-point formula, the first point is allocating funds for the development of backward areas. Allocation of funds for the development of backward areas. See the word backward areas, it is not Telangana. Now we are talking in general. Backward area can be Srikakulam, backward area can be Adilabad. So, allocation of funds for the development of backward areas. Development or developing the capital in a planned way. Then formulating the plans in legislature. Experts to be included in supervision of implementation. Consulting subcommittees in backward areas or constituting subcommittees in backward areas. Allocation of fund for the backward areas. If we recollect what is happening in the next phase also. Yanamala Ramakrishnadu, the speaker in the assembly, when Dasyam Pranay Bhaskar was talking about Telangana, he said, don't talk about Telangana. No word such Telangana exists as constitutional. So, Telangana word is banned in TDP government under Chandrababu and speakership of Yanamal Ramakrishnadu, and here also the word Telangana is gone now. Formula is oriented towards a backward area. This backward area can be anywhere in Andhra Pradesh. So, this is first part of this point number 1 under 6-point formula. One is the backward areas funds. Second one is developing the capital. Again, this is crucial. I want to comment upon this. This is 1973. Development of capital. After the 6-point formula or understanding that capital should be developed thoroughly, she is talking about the colonization of capital also indirectly. Development of capital means what? The flows of capital is towards the capital. Flows of capitalism is towards the capital. We can see wherever the things are happening. In the other topic, we will be discussing about the colonization or changes happening after 1972 or 73 in Hyderabad, real estate, movie, film field, and how the land is completely alienated from Telangana. And development of capital is one such thing we are talking about here. In the last phase also, we talked about the alienation of land from Telangana people. City getting alienated from Telangana. How we can understand this? Before 1973 or 1975, whenever there was a movement for Telangana, Hyderabad was a strong center, whether it is 1952 or it is 1969. Our meetings are held for Telangana always. Huge gatherings, students were into that. But post 1973, post 6-point formula, the orientation about the capital has changed. The capital, that is Hyderabad, should lose its character. Why it should lose its character? It's because Hyderabad, if it loses its Telangana character, Hyderabad is the soul of Telangana. Soul of Telangana. Telangana is the soul of Deccan, core of Deccan. Hyderabad is the soul of Telangana. If Hyderabad loses the soul, Hyderabad loses its essence, then you can rule the entire Telangana. This was the essence. So, allocating funds and developing capital are together. Then plans, legislature and all these things. But important aspect, another important aspect about this is constituting subcommittees in backward areas. Means like TRC, you will constitute a subcommittee to devise. This is point number 1. Then point number 2 is framing a uniform education system to give locals more opportunities. You say local uniform education system, but also say locals more opportunity. It is quite contradictory. And in this background, she has created an institution in Hyderabad, which is a prestigious one and a bigger one, establishing a central university in Hyderabad. Education system is to aim expanding the facilities. Means University of Hyderabad today, what we call it as Central University, Hyderabad University, it was created under 6-point formula. It can be asked in your examination. University of Hyderabad or Central University created under which formula? That is 6-point formula. Again, though University of Hyderabad is created under 6-point formula, it is not providing any reservation for Telangana as such. It has all India character and Telangana is losing its land for a University of Hyderabad. Under 6-point formula, a new facility has been created, but of no use for the locals. That is point number 2. Third one is in direct recruitment, locals to be given priority in non-gazetted posts. In non-gazetted posts also, direct recruitment. Again, what are the things excluded? Secretariat is excluded, HOD office is excluded, state office is excluded, Hyderabad police is excluded. Means non-gazetted posts are the posts direct recruitment in other than Hyderabad. When you have other than Hyderabad, again you can see how Hyderabad is getting alienated from Telangana. This is the second one. Then corresponding posts in local bodies also to be locals, for more locals, priority to locals. It is not priority to Telangana, for locals. By saying that, you are reserving Andhra to not only Telangana. Then posts of Tahsildar, Junior Engineer, Civil Assistant Surgeon, gazetted posts should be categorized into 1 and 2 grades. That is one point, saying categorization. These posts, these are to be categorized in 1 and 2 grade so that the promotions can happen. This is point number 3. Then fourth point, administrative tribunal to be established to resolve the issues of employment, seniority, promotions, etc. So, state government must implement the tribunal's verdict, that is binding on the state government. This is an administrative measure to resolve or listen to the grievances and give some verdicts on the grievances of the employees. The fifth one, Constitution to be amended, empowering the President to avoid controversies and uncertainties in implementing the above. Means this point is talking about the amendment to the Constitution. This amendment is resulting in what we call in Article 371, we are giving the powers to the Parliament, or the Act is giving the powers to the President to amend whenever to implement whatever the President or the central government decides upon, whenever the controversies or uncertainties are arising when you declare above. So, sixth point is there is no need to continue mulki rules and regional committees after implementing the above. That is the death knell. Once you say that's all, no discussion, nothing will happen. So, no need to continue mulki rules. Mulki rules gone, then regional committee gone, and implement all the 5 points which are mentioned above. This is nothing but losing all the things which you have got through your struggle much before 1956 and after 1956. So, this 6-point formula was a big, what you call fiasco, big treachery, big blow to Telangana demand. So, who were the signatories? But this Telangana demand could happen, all this 6-point formula, all the points of this 6-point formula were against Telangana, but there was no protest, because by this time leadership was completely suppressed or controlled by Indira Gandhi, divided house. So, she got the nod from the Telangana leaders and Andhra leaders too. For example, P.V. Narasimha Rao was consulted, signed the statement supporting 6-point formula. Kodati Rajamallu, a TRC chairman, and the Telangana Regional Committee chairman will lose his job after signing it. He signed. Then V.B. Raju, the settler, Jalagavengal Rao, another settler, and next Chief Minister, and 𝗂𝗽𝗱𝗁𝗁, J. Chokka Rao, 𝗳𝗶𝗿𝗺, Uppanutala Purushottam K. Ram Reddy, and Rajaram, Govind Singh, all these Telangana leaders signed in support of this 6-point formula. And as a result, what has happened? Mulki rules are gone. TRC got abolished. There is no committee for Telangana now. And 32nd Amendment to Constitution happened in May 1974. New sections to this article number 371, that is D and E, were added to article 371. Remember this, it's a crucial thing. Article 371D, we always talk about this presidential order, we call it as presidential order, and this presidential order is very important. You will talk about this presidential order or article 371D, that amendment and everything is coming as part of this 6-point formula. So, on 18th October 1975, the presidential order came, that is AP Public Employment in brackets, Organization of Local Cadres and Regulation of Direct Recruitment. Organization of Local Cadres and Regularization of Direct Recruitment. That is the AP Public Employment Order 1975. Finally, to sum up, what is happening as the result of this 6-point formula? One thing is, by abolition of all these things and saying that the chapter is closed, irregular appointments done previously are getting regularized. Second thing, residence clause, which was for 15 years since Nizam period, is got reduced to 4 years. 4 years of stay will give you the residentship. So, residence clause, that is 15 years reduced to 4 years as a result of this 6-point formula. Then, open quota is considered as non-local quota from now onwards. When you say open quota, it is open for locals too. But the interpretation of everything is happening and taken into the hands of the officials who are not sympathetic to Telangana, and open quota is becoming a non-local quota. Increasing in the level of posts to cut number of local posts. Means, when you say non-gazetted posts or lower level posts are for locals, then what you do, wherever there is possible, you slightly increase the level of the post to bring them out of this local criteria, local cadre. Then what will happen? These things will out of the reservation for the locals. So, this last point is nothing but just share in recruitment is getting denied. Just share, JUST, just share means న్యాయోచితమైన Vata for the locals, and that means Telanganites. So, 8, 5, 6 formulas came in different periods, in different backgrounds, but could not satisfy the demands of Telangana movement. They could not satisfy the aspirations, means nothing is done in terms of aspirations. It is only to patch up the issue and close the agitations, suppress the agitations with their own type of implementation. So, 8-point formula, 5-point formula, 6-point formula, I conclude as the expression of high-handedness, expression of arbitrariness, expression of suppression in terms of political activity by Indira Gandhi in Telangana.